Hey, this is Alex Stafford, and I'm here with the Rave TV, and we are sitting down with the thrash metal icon, Bobby Blitz of Overkill.
I'm sitting here on the iconic couch with iconic Alex and iconic Milwaukee at the iconic Rave. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm iconic, but we'll go with the Rave and all that.
We'll call it the word of the day. I mean, this is an iconic building. Yeah, I mean, you have to give it that. This is one of the strangest places I've ever played a gig in, and I've said that from the beginning. And I've played a lot of gigs. So.
Yeah, there's always like entrances around here and little weird tunnels,
spirits and ghosts and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm not really into that stuff, but you feel something when you're in here.
Little goosebumps.
Metal.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you guys played here?
Oh, geez, the first time we played here, it had to be all the way back on Field of Fire, and we were opening for Slayer for Rain and Blood.
Was that in the Rave or was that in the ballroom? Do you remember?
I think it was in the ballroom.
In the ballroom?
Yeah, it was in the big one, yeah.
That's quite the bill, though.
That was really, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was our first American tour, and then second time through, we came through with Megadeth about a year and a half after that.
And you've come through with Megadeth since then, Gigantour back in 2006, yeah.
The Gigantour was here. We've done countless things at the Rave, or the second room that we're playing now.
The basement, the bar.
The basement room, yeah, which is a great room too. I mean, it's just a cool place to come to. It's always been a great rock and roll, heavy metal city. So.
Well, we love having you.
That's good. It's because you have heavy iron here. You know, it's that Harley connection to heavy metal and the
beer and engines.
Yeah, beer and bikes and metal. What more does a young man need?
Some ladies. Some ladies, I'm not going to lie. But we got those too.
Yeah.
So now, I've been a fan of Overkill for a while. And throughout the last few years, you guys, I mean, well, since the beginning, you guys have been steadily releasing albums like every couple of years, and even at some point, like every 2 years. And you guys just released White Devil Armoury right there, which is another awesome album, 17.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys keep up the intensity, the influence for the new writing? I mean, you guys are spot on for every album.
Well, you know, it's strange because, you know, if you do the math, we've been around releasing since '85.
Yeah. 17
records in 29 years. It's less than, 2 years in between if you take it the average. I think it's just a work ethic. I think that we like to know what we're going to be doing next year. Or we like to know that we still have a record deal. We like to know that we have this opportunity. And I think that that's really the key for us. It's not about, anything except seizing opportunity and trying to make the next one with the one that we're experiencing now. The one we experience now is White Devil Armoury, so hopefully this gives us another opportunity down the road. But to sit here and critique the whole thing, I couldn't tell you it's done because of this. I think it's just our work ethic and the fact that we like doing this.
And it's nice to have a thrash band that's not waiting 5-6 years between albums, because sometimes it's just kind of tiresome waiting,
I think so. I mean, for us, it is about new material, I think that that's what kind of keeps it relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to stay relevant, you got to be kind of fresh. And right now, the scene itself, it encompasses 3 generations of people,
Yeah.
or cross-section of them. And so you have your young ones who are just experiencing. You have the mid ones that, picked it up in the 90s. And you got the older ones who are there all the way through. So I think that you want to take advantage of that opportunity. You don't want to say, we'll wait for 5 years, because for sure it could be gone. You have to think in those terms that, it could leave. But I think for Overkill, opportunity is what it's all about. And if the scene is reflective and positive right now, let's take advantage of that.
Yeah, and it's really funny that you mentioned, the young kids coming out, because even on today, I was just like going through Facebook, and a bunch of friends on there had said, "Oh, I'm finally seeing Overkill. I'm finally seeing Overkill." So you guys are getting a lot of, first timers out at these shows as well.
Well, you have to look. I mean, if you don't incorporate or grow with 50-year-old thrash fans, you just don't do that. You're either in or you're out by 50. It's not like, oh, now I'm really turned on to this. Maybe the odd person here and there.
Yeah.
But the idea of growth, I think, it comes with youth. And regardless of how old the band is or how long this scene's been around, it still exudes youthful energy.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes the attractive nature to it. And then you see that's where our growth is coming from over, let's say, this last trilogy of records. Because, we can see an increase from record to record to record with regard to sales, with regard to concert tickets, with regard to people, wearing the merch.
Yeah.
That there's growth. And that growth, I think, is the youth.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, I've seen you several times live, and your performance is more youthful than a lot of these younger bands. Like, I mean, I've seen you, you know, go stage diving, you know, stuff like that. Like, and you're still going with that.
Oh, I broke a hip.
It was worth it.
You know, it's one of the elements of pride I have with the band's presentation. You know, it's really about, you know, Overkill. It was always supposed to be more than necessary. You know, if it starts teetering off to that point where it can't be energetic, then it's not Overkill.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, we've always been kind of honest and pure when it comes to, you know, that principle. And we do this because we like doing it. And, you know, I've been chasing that high since the first time I came to the Rave, you know, or back to, you know, to the Eagles Club playing the ballroom back in the 80s. I'm still chasing that high. You know, you just don't get as high as you did the first time, but you still think you can. And I think that becomes really motivational for it, because, I mean, if it was energyless, or it was kind of one of those, you know, we're just kind of falling off or curving downward, what's the sense of doing it then?
You still thrive off that adrenaline rush, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm a big fan of history, but my favorite part of history is when you look at musical points of history. And one of my favorites is the thrash era. And now when the thrash started, it just seemed like a lot of them, I mean, maybe I'm looking at this different because I wasn't born at that point. I didn't experience a lot of that firsthand. But, you know, so you have the, you know, the big four or whatever, you know, mostly out of California, but, you know, you and Anthrax were over on the East Coast. When you started off, was there a kind of a competition, like we need to be heavier than the California Bay Area bands?
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, nobody's ever actually asked me that over all these years. I don't think so. I think, you know, because we didn't know what heavy was. I mean, we always wanted to be heavier, but heavier was just kind of a blanket term. It wasn't heavier than Exodus. It was just heavier.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, we enjoyed the fact that, you know, as the rules were being written for this stuff, that shit was coming out of the West Coast that we could say, wow, listen to this, you know? Or the stuff that was coming out of the East Coast, I'm sure some of those guys were going, wow, listen to this. And I think there's marketable differences between the two geographic locations, and sure, it's both thrash. But, you know, we were just coming off the experiencing of the explosion of this New York punk scene. That had
the hardcore scene too. You know?
Yeah, but it took the world by storm. You know, it was thinking global, locally, but acting globally. You know, it was down in Greenwich Village, and it was, you know, it was the Ramones and the New York Dolls, and there was Iggy Pop was living down there then. Yeah. And it was, I mean, you talk about wild, and then you infuse that shit with the new wave of British heavy metal, and I think that's where you get the East Coast sound, or that New York, New Jersey kind of a sound. Out on the West Coast, they had, you know, the Dead Kennedys, and they had other influence.
Yeah.
With that new wave of British heavy metal, and I think that they're the marketable differences between the two geographic locations.
Very well put, man. I love how, you know, some of the thrash bands, it's like, you know, it kind of seems like we're going to give a run for the money for the other bands. It's kind of like a friendly rivalry, you know, go a little faster than that last band, you know? I
tell a funny story. It's we took Exodus out in, it was 07, and I love competition. I mean, you know, I mean, I thrive on the shit. It's not like, you know, I mean, I love sitting in a room with those guys, but I really want to beat them to death on that stage. You know what
One
I'm
up, you know.
And whether it be a band like that, or whether it be a young, youthful band like Warbringer, we were talking about.
Yeah,
earlier.
Warbringer's great guys.
You know, I love the fact that, you know, I didn't get in the game to lose. You know, I'm playing to win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at albums, you know, compared to some other ones. I think you're winning.
Well, and the key is not paying attention to winning. It's paying attention to playing. And I remember we were somewhere in Spain, and I mean, I love Gary Holt's performances.
Yeah,
you know?
He's one of a kind.
And he just shredded this night. He was in a zone, and I could tell, you know. And I'm standing there, and he comes walking off the stage, and he's sweating his ass off, you know, with his guitar slung around his hip and that kind of half-cocked Billy the Kid smile that he has.
Yeah.
He goes to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He goes to me, beat that, Mr. Blitz. And I said, my pleasure, Mr. Holt.
You're on. That's awesome. Well, I'll take it that you won that one, though, right?
Well, I think I did anyway, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Take that, Gary. You're next. Beat this. And then one of my favorite things is always to ask, you know, a lot of bands, you know, now they have to balance, you know, their home jobs, their second jobs with their music, because it's kind of hard to do both, you know. But What's the worst job you've ever had?
Well, all right. I've had many. I'm gonna say it was probably garbage man.
Oh, I can imagine.
And it was I had it in the summer. My uncle was involved in a karting company in New Jersey. He was also of Italian descent. Not that that means anything. But I got bumped out of a job I was in.
Yeah.
And he said, "You ever need a job? All you do is call me." And he gave me a car, and I'd have to go around and pick up people's garbage. But it was in a place called Upper Saddle River, New Jersey. Upper Saddle River, New Jersey, at the time was housing people like Richard Nixon. You know what I'm saying?
So it was a ritzier area.
Oh, it's Bergen County, New Jersey.
You're taking out Nixon's trash.
It's always like 1 and 2 is between that and Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yes, and the funniest fucking thing that sorry about that.
I don't fucking care.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not in the network, right?
No.
And the funniest fucking thing that ever happened to me was this guy was a big stockbroker in the city.
Okay.
He'd come, I had a little pickup truck, and he goes, "Did you pick up at my house?" And I said, "I don't really know you." He goes, "It's this one over here, number 28, and there was only one bag in the garbage can." And I said, "I did, as a matter of fact." And he goes, "Will you go in and search for it in the garbage?" I said, "No, I'm not going to go in."
like an actual old dump or garbage truck that crunches it up in?
Yeah, well, I was taking it from a pickup truck to that garbage truck.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was full.
Ew.
So this guy had thrown out his wife's diamond wedding ring in that thing. And he tipped me. I remember he tipped me $50, and he hopped in there with his Pierre Cardin shoes on and went through the garbage until he found it. So now that when I think back on your question, I say, that wasn't such a bad job.
Well, here's the real question. Did he throw out the ring, or did she throw out the ring?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I didn't ask. I took the 50.
Oh, man, that's awesome. I've asked that question to a lot of bands, but I think that one is definitely one-upping the other job stories too.
Garbage man Bobby Blitz.
Oh my God, the Wrecking Crew. I was expecting maybe you were doing demolition or something,
Nah,
but no,
garbage man.
Trash.
I had some really interesting jobs. I worked at the Museum of Modern Art. I ran a loading
that would
dock.
be cool. I would like that.
I was a loading dock. There was a condominium above the museum. That's right when Overkill was starting. A girlfriend got me the job back then. I worked in record shops and sold guitar strings and all the stuff that a lot of guys in bands would do. So
that's awesome. Well, I mean, you're gonna play tonight, and then what's next? New album probably in a year or two?
Well, I think so. Again, we're still on this opportunity right now. Obviously, we're going to finish this U.S. tour, and then it's good to have Prong on board with us. I mean, because that's a beautiful 1-2 punch. I mean,
Prong also put out another killer album, too.
Ruining Lives. Really good stuff. Tommy always
And by the way, happy birthday, Tommy. It's his birthday today, isn't it?
Oh, I'm going to have to see him, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go over and shake his hand. Happy
Throw
birthday.
some cake at him.
21.
Yeah, I guess so.
Again. But yeah, we have that. We have Europe. We just talked about going down to Mexico to do a festival, Heaven and Hell. With Kiss. Oh, geez, a bunch of stuff. There's already blocked out dates for 2015 for a second U.S., second European. Japanese tours already been booked, so things are good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, needless to say, come back to Milwaukee anytime. We love having you.
Always a pleasure.
So I thank you for sitting down with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Blitz from Overkill. I'm Alex Stafford, and we will see you next time on the Rave TV.